right. The chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, has laid out the timeline of Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation process. Take a listen.
We'll start on the 12th. We'll have 4 days of hearings. Then we'll hold over the nomination for a week, consistent with the rules of the Judiciary Committee. And hopefully we'll come to the floor around the 26th. And that will be up to Mitch McConnell.
All right. Well, Democrats and a lot of folks in the media claim that that timeline is rushed. But look at recent history of justices being confirmed. It actually proves otherwise. And joining us to talk about that is Jordan Sekulow. He is the executive director of the American Center for Law and Justice. Jordan, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let me ask you right off the bat, is this rushed?
No, about like 40-ish days is about normal. So this goes right into that timeline. They've been quicker. There have been 30 days. There have been ones that have obviously taken longer. What the problem is for the left is that when you have it on kind of the normal schedule of how these used to run, kind of around this time of Justice Ginsburg, when these were pretty open and closed, they weren't so partisan. Yes, if you were Republican, you didn't necessarily like the philosophy of the person, but if they were okay otherwise, you probably voted yes. Now we know that won't happen, but it doesn't give them as much time to build a narrative against Judge Barrett. Now they've tried, and they've also gone through this once with her. They kind of made her out to be, this happens occasionally with a circuit court nominee, and we saw this under the Bush years where we had to make deals to even get circuit court nominees confirmed. But they tried to go after, and that was of course the famous dogma and going after her faith. Are you an Orthodox Catholic, whatever that means? And it failed. So I think that's why they're leaning on maybe not showing up at all. It's like why they don't want to meet with her. They don't need Kamala Harris really getting in a match with a former Notre Dame professor and someone who is being nominated to the Supreme Court, whose hearing is going to be different because she's not just going up to be a circuit court judge. So the answers are different when you are the top court.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Jordan. They want more time. They need more time. As Sean mentioned, the press is acting like this is a rush process. Listen to what Chuck Todd said yesterday on Meet the Press.
It's made election disputes one of the rationales for why she needs to be rushed onto the court. You guys are rushing to confirm a Supreme Court justice. Where's the urgency on virus relief?
All right, as you mentioned, Jordan, there are quite a few actually other Supreme Court justices. Their day from nomination to confirmation. Look at this. John Roberts, 23 days. Sandra Day O'Connor, 33 days. John Paul Stevens, 19. Harry Bluckman, 27. Warren Burger, 17. Okay, so this would be around 38 days for Barrett. So they really have nothing to complain about here.
Now, think about this. From while we're speaking together right now, they have 2 weeks. 2 weeks until the hearings start to throw out whatever attack they want, to try to make something stick, to try and convince the Republicans, a couple more Republicans, to go their way. I think where they knew they lost is when you had Gardner in Colorado come out, and then Mitt Romney come out. And when Mitt Romney came out, it really was not just to say, hey, I'm going to vote yes, but it was the end of the whole idea of can you get to cloture? Can you get past the hurdle? And so does it matter? Do you have to bring in Vice President Pence or not? We already knew with Gardner that you could get there with Vice President Pence. So this idea too that, oh, we've got, like Chuck Todd just talked about, so he's got 2 weeks in the liberal media to figure this out, but also some attack that will actually stick. They haven't so far. I think they're all going to fail, and Judge Barrett will be Justice Barrett. But the COVID release line is such a false line because it is Nancy Pelosi who won't come to the table on that. It's the House that won't come to the table on that. The Senate has got no issues passing. Mitch McConnell can get the COVID release. They've got the mini bills already done, and it's the House of Representatives that won't come to the table. That has nothing to do with the Senate Judiciary or U.S. senators.
You know, Jordan, you mentioned or you alluded to at least some tactics that Democrats have talked about in terms of not showing up, trying to slow this process down. This is what Dick Durbin said this weekend about the process.
We could slow it down, perhaps a matter of hours, maybe days at the most, but we can't stop the outcome. What we should do is to address this now respectfully.
All right, so Jordan, you said this a moment ago, and I know it was sort of tongue-in-cheek, but when Judge Barrett becomes Justice Barrett, is it a fait accompli, barring some sort of outrageous allegation now based on what Durbin says, that looks like we have the votes, looks like they can't stop it? So right. Barring some crazy accusation, are we there yet?
We are there. We are to the point now where it'd have to be an accusation that would warrant like an FBI investigation. Basically, what they tried to do to Kavanaugh. And the thing with Judge Barrett is she's much more recent confirmed. You know, this 3 years ago that they tried to attack her. And we're starting to see attacks thrown out, though people are losing their jobs over this. Like the Boston University professor wrote the famous, How to Be an Anti-Racist book. And now could lose his job at BU because he came out and called her a colonizer, for having 2 adopted kids from Haiti. So they're attacking her, calling her a racist for having 2 black children. And so if they're at that point of their attack, Sean, I think it really is down to something that no one would know about. And I don't like anybody taking these for granted. There's a lot of work that has to be done to keep this on track.
Yeah.
And as Senator Graham said, he kind of has his role to play. He'll get it to the 22nd-ish around there, and then it's in Mitch McConnell's court. And so then he's got to take it over the line with any kind of hijinks. I'm not going to trust Dick Durbin, on this. Any kind of hijinks to slow it down, hours, days, as he talked about. Well, days can be very important in this if you're talking about a confirmation around the 28th, when the election's on the November 3rd. So if you're talking about the 26th to 28th, that keeps it a safe time period. You go 3-4 days past that with delay tactics, and suddenly you are in the middle of literally an election, which could have a lot of legal issues. Both sides are gearing up for it, not just Republicans. It's not just President Trump who's gearing up for the legal battles. It's also the Democrats who are they're already in court all over the country trying to expand the days you can have your ballot turned in and things like that. So honestly, we need 9 justices on the court. Justice Ginsburg decided not to retire under a Democrat. Every time there's been a vacancy, the Republican has put up a nominee.
Thank you for saying that, because here's the thing that these guys forget. If she was so concerned about that dying wish that she'd be replaced by a president of her own party, she had plenty of opportunity to do that. And that's so important that you made that point.
Yeah, I don't love the fact that they try to attribute that to her. We're trusting a cousin or a niece about this, because what she would be alluding to in there is that somehow that there was no separation of powers.
Well,
I'll
take it.
Like, maybe I'd like that to happen. That's fine, but she knew that wasn't the reality. I think she knew that going in, and everyone else did.
Jordan, I'll take it one step further. Respectfully, I don't care. It's not their seat to determine who gets to replace them. This is we have a constitution that lays out how it works. And this talk of it's her seat and it's his seat, that's not how the system works. We don't live in a place where you just get to pass on your seat in government to the next person. Real quick before we go, we're literally out of time. Do you think that based on what Lisa Murkowski, the senator from Alaska, said, that there's a shot that she now votes yes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think that Murkowski or Collins are totally out of the. I think that that's why there's work to be done in a positive way. Have Judge Barrett meet with them again, spend more time with them, and I think it actually becomes tougher for them to take this stance than it would have been if a couple other Republicans would have unfortunately joined that. I think when Mitt Romney came out, who does not love the president but does see the bigger picture on these judicial nominees, at least I kind of said he's on his way to redeeming himself with me, not there yet. And we got to see. We got to see. None of these are like the most solid. Some of these are not the most solid. They're moving targets.
Right.
So get the confirmation started in a couple weeks, but let's not take anything for granted.
I agree.
That's that way.
Jordan, thank you for your insight. Look forward to having you back in the weeks to come. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Coming up, we're going to talk to a Notre Dame law professor who's known Judge Barrett for quite a long time. He says that she is respected by her colleagues and her former students, and that liberals should not fear her becoming a Supreme Court justice.